So next we are installing MySQL database. And this MySQL database will be utilized by Cloudera Manager to store its configurations. And it will also be useful in other projects like Hive or Oozie, and many other projects they make use of relational database. So we are just installing one relational database, MySQL. So right now we have just taken MySQL, but you have other options also. If you go to Cloudera documentation, you will find that you can also install Postgres, or you can install Oracle. So there are like multiple databases which are supported, and these are load tested. So but we are going for a simple database, MySQL, right now. So you can choose any one of those, like which are supported. You can just go to the Cloudera documentation and see the list of databases which are supported. So primarily three databases: Oracle, Postgres, and MySQL. So once the installation is done, then we will start the MySQL daemon also in the next step. So right now we are just completing the installation. It takes time, maybe a couple of minutes. Okay, the installation is complete. Last one is left, only one step. Okay, so now we are starting MySQL daemon after installation. Okay, the installation is now complete, and we are starting MySQL daemon. And then we can also see the status of MySQL D, if it is actually started or not. So that is one of the recommended practice to ensure that your MySQL D is actually started. Any service you start, it is recommended that you should see the status also. So I'm just going there, enabling MySQL D, so that next time when we reboot our system, then the MySQL daemon should be started automatically. Now the next step is to install the driver or the connector for MySQL Java. And then we will be configuring the database for different services, Cloudera services. So as I mentioned, this MySQL database will be used for various purposes. For example, storing configuration of Cloudera Manager. It will also be used for storing the Hue related configurations, Oozie related configurations, Ranger related configurations. So it will be storing a lot of important configurations. So that's why we are installing, and then we are configuring the required users in the database, MySQL database. We are running this script, and we'll run this MySQL secure installation script also after this. This is one of the steps to set up everything. It will set up the required schema in each of the above databases. The users are already created in the previous step. So we just need to specify these default configurations. Now we will go to MySQL shell, and we will see which all databases exist after we are done with the above setup. So let's log into MySQL database, and now we will do show databases. So the databases have been set up. So we'll set up some firewall rules in GCP. So we need to go to VPC network on the GCP console. So console.cloud.google.com, and go to the network, the firewall rules. VPC under VPC network, and we will be creating a firewall rule, and the name of the rule will be Hadoop, and we will be specifying the source IP range. So you can give any name. So right now I'm just giving Hadoop. So all instances in the network we are just picking up in the targets, and we have to give the source IP range, and source IP range in our case will be our IP address. So here you need to specify your own IP address and specify this port 7180, and we'll say create. So how to get the IP address? So you changes to what is my IP and pick up this IP address and specify this IP address here, so that the request should be accepted from your IP address. So 7180 is a default port of Cloudera Manager. So we will be opening a browser and we will be specifying the 7180, and we will be able to log into Cloudera Manager through our own machine, local machine. So that's why we are enabling it. Now it's time to actually install Cloudera data platform, and this is like an installer. And first of all we will install Cloudera Manager, and through Cloudera Manager we will be installing Cloudera data platform. So these are just straightforward steps that we need to follow to install Cloudera Manager. And Cloudera Manager is a UI for installing, configuring, managing, monitoring, maintaining the cluster. So this is the screen that comes up when we start installation, and we are just saying accept this license, and it will be like a 60-day trial version. It will take some time to install Cloudera Manager, so we'll wait for that. So right now it is just using the embedded database, but we can change this embedded database to the database that we just installed. So you can see the URL. Using this URL you can access the Cloudera Manager. So that's why we opened the port 7180, and we also specified our own local machine IP address, so that we can just go to our local machine browser and we can specify this URL to access the Cloudera Manager from our own local machine. So we will start the Cloudera Manager server since it is installed. So the name of the server is Cloudera SCM server. We'll start that. We'll also see the status. So right now we can see the Cloudera Manager server is already started. So if it is not started, then you can explicitly start it by, like, sometimes it happens that the server is not started, so you can actually do it explicitly. But right now in our case it is already running, so we will not be bothered much. So we will be able to access the Cloudera Manager by going to the browser and then specifying the port 7180, and our local machine IP address is already whitelisted in the firewall rule, so therefore will not be facing any issue with regards to connectivity. So right now I can see the error, which is this site cannot be reached. So that means Cloudera Manager is still being started, the server is being started. So once the server is up, then this message will go away and we will get the login screen of Cloudera Manager. So let's retry. So now as you can see, the Cloudera Manager is available, and we can specify the username, password here,